And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fox 10 Special Reports. I am Gina B, and here with me is.
I am Tiffany Beth, and we are very, very excited to bring you self help author and guru James Arthur Ray.
And I also am so excited to have him on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play his introduction video, like I always do, and he will be with us as soon as it's over. Good evening, and welcome to the Fox 10 Special Reports. Joining us tonight is James Arthur Ray. James is the author of 6 internationally best-selling books, including his New York Times bestseller, Harmonic Wealth, The Secret to Attracting the Life You Want, and co-author and contributor to The Secret. Ray has worked with over 1 million people from 145 countries through his audio, video, coaching, and life and business leadership programs. Over 1 million people have attended his live events worldwide. His new book, The Business of Redemption, The Price of Leadership in Life and Business, was released in February of 2020. James Arthur Ray's company hit the Inc. 500 in 2009 as one of the fastest growing, most successful privately held companies in the United States and possibly the world. In 2007, he was awarded the Distinguished Toastmasters Award for Outstanding Communication and Leadership. His book, Harmonic Wealth, was voted as one of the top celebrity reads by People magazine in 2008. Fortune magazine wrote a full-feature article on him in 2008, heralding him as the new frontrunner in leadership and performance. James has appeared numerous times on Larry King Live, Piers Morgan, The Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, and Oprah. After rising to the pinnacle of his profession, he and his company were involved in a tragic accident in 2009, and he lost everything. Since that time, he has applied the same strategies he taught his clients for decades to rebuild his own life and business and come back strong. James' life story is told in the CNN documentary Enlighten Us, released on CNN in 2016 and now on Netflix. Because of his experience in building from humble beginnings in scratch, as well as rebuilding after hitting rock bottom post-terrible crises, James has the unique experience and ability to help those at the top, those on the climb, and those who must put their lives back together to get up and climb again. In his mission to positively impact a minimum of 1 billion lives and businesses worldwide, Ray continues relentlessly to bring his experience, resilience, adaptability, and wisdom to all those he's blessed to serve and support. We welcome you to the Fox Den. And here he is. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really, really happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Yeah,
it's interesting in that I just got to say in that intro video, I had so many different kinds of hair. I don't know what's going on.
Yep. We want the full broad spectrum.
Yeah, so. you got from no gray to long to gray, whatever. So here we are.
It's a timeline. It's fine. We just follow it as the hair goes along.
That's right. Well, when I made that video, I was kind of new with the videos. Now I'm getting a little better. So when you see the exit video, you'll do a little better.
Nice job, Gina. Nice job.
Well, thank you. And it's a learning thing. We all have to learn things. And that's basically what you're doing all the time. You're always learning and moving and motivating and growing and going. And, and especially like the things that you've been through. And again, I want everybody to understand this too, as you're watching. If you don't know James Arthur Ray's life, like I did mention in that video, you can go watch Enlighten Us. You can get that, that one version of it, So that's like the thing that you're always tied to. Right. And to overcome that. And that's where the redemption thing is coming into play. So that's a huge part of your life right now. And, what else are you going to do?
Well, it always will be a huge part of my life. I mean, the bottom line is it was a horrible accident, and it broke my heart because I got very close with a small group of people who were there to transform their lives and their businesses. And because of the nature of the program, there was only 52 people. It was really up close and personal. And so we cried together and we laughed together and we hugged together. And for 3 people to ultimately lose their life was if you've ever lost anyone that you love and care about, you know how that feels. And it was just terrible. And I will carry that for the rest of my days. And what I will say is that even though it was a horrible accident, I take full responsibility, because that's the price of leadership. And that's one of the things I talk about in the business of redemption, is that so many people say, oh, I want to start my own business. So many people say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. And that's great. And yet, please understand that when you're the leader and something goes sideways, there's only one person in the crosshairs, and you can't put your team under the bus. You can't blame, you can't point fingers. You have to shoulder that. And if you're not willing to shoulder that and stand up to that, then you need to stand down, because that's really the price of leadership.
Amen. That's so true. I mean, I was a business owner for many, many years, so I understand that completely. And my husband passed away, so I can understand that as well. So when you lose someone that close to you, it's tough. But to get to that point though, now you were, before that incident happened, that was 2009. Before that, how many years were you doing the work that you were doing?
432 years. No, I'm just kidding. It
Is that how long my time was in Egypt?
Yeah. I often say it. I worked 20 years to become an overnight success, and that's the reality. For 20 years, I was really hustling and juggling, and the entrepreneurial adventure it's brilliant and it's very rewarding. It's also very, very difficult. And if any of your viewers are entrepreneurs, I'm sure you can appreciate this. I was playing what I call entrepreneurial solitaire. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. Reed and I play that all the time.
That's where you take all your credit cards and you throw them on the bed and you try to figure out which one has a balance left on it, so you can make it through the month, right? And that was my life for the better part of 20 years, until, of course, The Secret. Have you ever heard of The Secret?
Yeah.
Until The Secret hit in 2006, and what a lot of people don't know, Gina and Tiffany, is that we weren't paid a nickel to be in that movie or to be contributors to the book. It was a labor of love, and I was about ready to throw in the towel. I really was. I left AT&T School of Business in '92, and I had just hustled and struggled for so long, and I was just like, there's got to be some easier way to live. And then The Secret hit, and I'm so glad I didn't throw in the towel, because everything blew up in a great way, and all of my opportunities expanded in a great way. And so I had the opportunity to work worldwide with so many people, and to be able to share the message I'd worked so long and so hard to do. And then, of course, as you noted, I rose to the peak, and then I fell to the pit. I mean, I lost everything. So I've been at both ends of the spectrum, and it's been a crazy ride. It really has. My wife and I talk frequently that we're never going to come to the end of our life and look back and go, oh, that was boring.
Definitely not.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's been quite an adventure.
That's true. That is true. And I'm going to be having Travis Fox on soon. He's coming up. He'll be on with me and Mama D on a Thursday. But now I get going still again back before that, and you're like, what kind of training did you do? Like, did you study with someone in particular? Who was your mentor? I mean, what was it that sparked that in you to really, even though when you're playing that roulette and you're that down, what was that motivation to keep you going?
It's a really great question, Gina. And I've had six major mentors in my life. And I've had business mentors, I've had spiritual mentors, I've had I've been exposed to a lot of esoteric studies. And so I've had psychological mentors. I've run the gamut, and I've been quite eclectic in my approach. My early years, and I mentioned this a moment ago, were spent at AT&T, and I was a salesperson at AT&T, and I did really well. And so then they asked me if I'd become a sales trainer, and when I agreed to that, I got in front of the room for the first time. I'm like, wow, this is something that I'm really good at, and I enjoy it, and it feels good, and getting the feedback and all of that, and I can get people to listen. And so that kind of set me off on a journey. I was with AT&T for 13 years though, and I went through a variety of management jobs. I helped them build their national telemarketing center, and then I ended up at AT&T School of Business as a C-suite consultant, and that's actually what Bersaba and I are doing here right now. We're with a corporate client in San Diego, and we're working on culture change initiatives and really working with the executive team to help them improve their business. And so that's what I did solely when I first started. And then little by little, I wrote my first book, and then I started doing public seminars and doing personal coaching and so on and so forth.
What would you say is your favorite book that you've written? Sorry, Tiff, and then you can ask.
My favorite book, my latest book, The Business of Redemption, is my favorite book because it's an amalgamation. It's about my whole journey from obscurity to the peak, and then losing it all and going to the pit and ended up in prison and all of those things, and then the comeback. And so I chose the title Redemption for a purpose, because when you look at the definition of redemption, it really means to gain or regain something by paying the price. And what I find consistently is that so many people want to gain something that they've never had, or they want to regain something that they've lost, and yet they're unwilling to pay the price. And there's always a price for the prize. And so this book it was a catharsis for me. It was very difficult. It took me 6 years to write it. And it was very healing, because I talk about all my experiences going through the tsunami and losing everything external and going to prison and all the lessons I learned. But I also have put into that a lot of the lessons that I believe apply to every single individual. And here's what going back to your original question, Gina, that I neglected to answer, what pulled me through? I will say to you very easily and very simply, it was a sense of purpose. Because when you can make a situation meaningful, and I had to do that when I was sitting in solitary confinement right next to death row, I can't even begin. If you read the book, I talk about a lot of the experiences. It was a horrific environment, obviously. And I mean, I was eventually 6 feet away from heroin addicts who were shooting up 24/7. And I was in situations where I would never have experienced in a lifetime in any other situation. And I had to come to a point of finding meaning in that and a purpose for that. And people often say to me, well, didn't you just make that up? I don't care. It worked. If you can find meaning and purpose in what you're doing, it will pull you through. And I don't know if you're familiar with Viktor Frankl's work, but he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and he was a prisoner in Auschwitz during the war. And obviously where I was is nowhere close to Auschwitz. And yet he wrote a book about his experience, and he said that he had to find meaning and purpose, and that's what pulled him through. And it certainly did for me as well.
Yeah, it's a degrading thing.
So I have to ask, given that what happened in 2001 wasn't exactly a direct, purposeful thing, why were you in solitary confinement? That seems awfully erratic for them to do.
Yeah, it does,
If
doesn't
you
it?
don't mind me asking.
Here's what I can only speculate, because when you're in prison, you're not a person.
No,
You're
you're
literally
not.
not. You're a number, and you're literally property of the state. That's what they tell you. You're property of the state. You're not a human being, and so they don't tell you anything. And so my speculation, which is all that it is that they were so afraid because I was a public figure. And when I arrived, everyone knew who I was because I'd been all over the news. I mean, if you saw the news literally crucified me. And so everyone knew who I was. And I speculate that they were concerned that I was going to get harmed,
Mhm.
and they didn't want that publicity. And I'm grateful, because I've always been very good on my own. And most guys in solitary confinement, and I assume women too, I don't know that, but most guys in solitary confinement go nuts because I had no one to talk to. I had no paper, no pen, no books, no TV, certainly no cell phone, nothing but me and four walls and God, and not even a window. And so I was okay with that because I felt safe. When I went into prison, I frankly, I didn't know if I was going to be raped or stabbed or if I was going to get out alive. I was really frightened.
Mhm.
And so that gave me a sense of security behind those walls. Now, as time went on, I got into minimum security, but I believe they had me in maximum initially just for protection. I don't know that. I'm speculating.
Mm.
I
Well,
thought it was
to be honest here, I mean, a whole lifetime ago, a complete other person than you see the person in front of you today, I did go to jail. I did have a problem with drugs, and that was why I went to jail. But I was there for a year. And I'll tell you, women's prison, I mean, you talk about degrading, it is degrading. And how they put you, in the little phases that you go through. First of all, you're in a room with 4 beds and a toilet in the middle of the room with, 4 other women, and that's
And there's no walls or
yeah,
anything either.
nothing. Yeah, the toilet is
Right.
right there. And I could not, there's no way. I had major issues. So you're in there for 22 hours a day. Then you go from that into a big unit that's a lockdown for you're escorted to meals and you're escorted to that before you get into the general population. Then you go into this huge, like the corral room, which is just a big, huge room with a bunch of bunk beds and foot lockers at the end of the beds, and that's where your stuff goes. No locks, no nothing, and the showers have no curtains, the stalls have no doors. I mean, it really is meant to.
Break you down.
Exactly, and it certainly does that.
And I
It
commend
does.
both of you because I've never been to jail, but I've taught in jail, and my clients who I work with now have come from prison, and and they're all substance users, and they're all very traumatized. So for both of you to come out with like a level head going, I survived it. I can breathe. I can grow from this instead of going F the world, F everybody around me. You know what? We're just going to self-destruct. I think that's really great. And that in itself speaks volumes for individuals who have been incarcerated in such an erratic way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you lose everything, what is your other choice? You don't have another choice but to build yourself back up. Yeah, if you want to wallow and be depressed for a little while, okay, you got a couple weeks. All right, but other than that, snap out of it, put your big boy, big girl panties on, and get out there and do the work and pull yourself back up again. And not to say that it was a smooth ride after that, because it hasn't been. That's life. And you teach a lot about that, though, don't you?
I do. We grow the most, and there's research to back this up. We grow the most in the crucible of challenge. We don't grow the most when we're drinking the fine wine and smelling the roses. I wish it was different, but it's not. And so I cannot imagine a situation in my life. I'm sure there could be one, but I can't imagine a situation where I would have learned as much, grown as much, been able to practice the things that I taught for years as much as I was able to in this situation. And so I'm grateful for that. I haven't always been. It took me a while to get there. I went through all the states of grieving. I went through blame. I went through anger. and I finally had to get my head on. And there was a lot of experiences along the way that God, Spirit, the universe, life sent to me to help wake me up and go, hey, come on. You're going to be here. You can be miserable the whole time, or you can make it work for you. And I fortunately eventually chose that. When I got out in 2013, though, I was a mess. I was mentally and emotionally distraught. I was disenchanted with the whole personal development industry. I was standing in the middle of the desert, and I was in horrible physical condition. I'd lost 40 pounds I didn't need to lose. I had periodontal disease. I was alone. I was homeless, and I was $20 million in debt.
Yeah.
And so, that was in 2013. So that's what, eight years ago now. And so I needed redemption. And that's again why I came with the book. I needed redemption, and I needed to get my head on. And now fast forward to 2021, and once again, we're here working with a corporate client. I'm married to the most amazing woman on the planet who I didn't even know in 2013.
She can go say hello.
It gets me emotional, but we live in Henderson, Nevada. We have a comfortable, modest place in Henderson. I don't need any more to go over the top. I've been over the top, and I'm grateful for that. But I don't need that anymore. I realize there's so many things that are much more important in life than how much money you make and what car you drive and where your house is.
Okay. Now I have to back you up. And you said you were $20 million in debt. Now, did you pay that off? Did you claim bankruptcy? Are you still paying?
Yeah.
What's going on?
No, I had to file bankruptcy, and that was a whole journey. I didn't have to. I chose to. And that was a whole journey for me too, because again, I look back in so many ways to who I once was, and I had good intention and a good heart. And yet I didn't have a lot of compassion because I didn't have the experience. You can only have compassion when you have a common experience. If you look, I'm a student of language. What most people neglect to realize is that the word passion is Latin for suffering. And so many people are going, follow your passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. What they're really saying is chase your suffering. And if you look at the word compassion, it's come, which is the prefix is common, common passion, common suffering. And so now that I have that experience, I can relate so much better to so many people who, because of the COVID craziness and everything that's been going on in the last year, have lost their job, have lost their home. I mean, I know that. I get it. And I will never minimize that. I've lost loved ones. I lost my business. It took me 20 years to build. All those things, lost my bank account, my life savings. And yet, again, I'm a better man. I know I am. My wife tells me now, if I'd have known you then, I wouldn't be your wife now, so because
love her honesty. Go girl.
Yeah, because no, she's straight up. And I love that about her. But the reality is I'm not the same person. And I'm grateful. I don't want to do it again. Don't get me wrong.
But we don't want you to.
No. Thank you. But I'm really grateful for the experience and for what I've learned and how I've grown through it.
So now I have to ask, we talked about your inspiration prior to the Empire fall. When you got out and everything, what inspired you to go, you know what? I still have purpose. I still have to keep moving. Was somebody going, hey, James, you still have it in you. We can use your heartache and build it forward to help others. What was that motivating factor and inspirational factor for you?
It's a great question, Tiffany, because it wasn't instantaneous. when I first came out, I had a media agent with William Morris, who I'd been with for years and years, and then he had left and started his own company, and he stayed with me through the whole meltdown. God rest his soul. He exited a couple years ago, but he was such a great friend and such a great support. And I said to him, I do not, because he was constantly putting me in the media and constantly doing this and doing that. And I had several offers for TV shows and all those kind of things. And I said prior to, and I said, I don't want to go there again. I said, you know, the guy, and this is a crazy example, but I said, you know, the guy who hosts Dancing with the Stars? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I represent him. I said, I want to do that. I just want to do that. And I want to go home at night and sleep in my own bed and not have the pressure and not have to worry about it. He goes, you could do that. And I go, I know I could do that. And he said, okay, we'll do that. And I said, or you know, he helped build Ryan Seacrest's career. And I said, you know, Ryan Seacrest has a great radio show. Yeah, do that. I'll do that. And he goes, okay, we can do that. I did not want to be doing what I'm now doing. And yet here's the bottom line. When you know why God has sent you here, or spirit, or universal intelligence, whatever label you choose, it doesn't matter to me, then you don't quit. You just don't, because you know why you're here. And so I toyed with the idea, and yet I couldn't do it. When you know your purpose, you don't. You can, but you don't, because nothing else is fulfilling for you. And that's my great wish for everyone, all of your viewers. You know, find that place. You know, Gallup tells us that 72% of the people surveyed are unhappy, disengaged, and literally miserable in their life and business.
Yep.
That's darn near 3/4 of the population. You know, life is too short. And so find your purpose, because I believe that all of us have a unique genius. All of us have a special reason for being here, and I can't fulfill your reason and you can't fulfill mine. And so when that's not completed, there's a void in the universal plan. And so over time, I realized I got to do what I'm here to do. And I remember my mom, my poor beloved mom, she's 83 now, and she's not in very good health. And yet she went through hell with me, because if you can imagine, as a mother, seeing your son in the media getting beat up all the time, and knowing your son and going through a 4-month trial and seeing all the things that happened, it was so tough on her. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, when I decided to come back into leadership and performance, she said, son, after everything you've been through, why would you $1 million
question?
Why would you put yourself in that position? Because you know they're going to take shots at you. You know that's not going to be easy. And I just looked at her and waited a beat or two. And she said, I get it. You don't have a choice, do you? And I literally did have a choice. But ultimately, given what we've discussed here, I didn't, because that's why I'm here, and I know that. And so that's what pulled me through, and that's what kept me going.
Excellent.
And now, a lot of the people that followed you before, are they following you still? Like, come back to you? Did a lot of people abandon you? I mean, how do you feel about that? Because that's got to be really tough.
Yeah, it is tough. Not so much. Because here's the everything in life, as Moses said, is a blessing and a curse, right? When he came down from Mount Sinai, I brought you a blessing and a curse. And that's the law of polarity, which is one of the laws of this universe. Every up has a down, every right has a left, every good has a bad. And so the blessing and the curse of The Secret, and I'm very grateful that I was part of that, because it gave me an opportunity to talk to such a broader audience worldwide, and to share so much more. I mean, the law of attraction, is about that much of what I ever did. And fortunately, I was blessed to be in the movie and in the book. And yet it also put me into a niche that was not really who I am, because I was the guy, if any of your viewers saw me back on Oprah when everything was big, I was the guy with the whole panel. Everyone was going, "Oh, just visualize it and it's going to happen."
Yep.
Well, how's that working for you? I mean, if you sit around visualizing every day, they'll come take your furniture away. Right. I mean, I was the guy saying, hey, remember, 60% of the word attraction is action. It's action. And so a lot of, in long answer to your question, which I tend to be good at long answers, if you haven't figured that out yet, but in long answer to your question, not too many of the old followers, because a lot of the old followers were caught up in that very, how do I say this kindly and respectfully? It's a very entry level, elementary concept to think all I have to do is visualize and it's going to happen for me. And there's still some people there, but life doesn't work that way. And so now the message is very different, because if you look at the message back then, it was about get the house, get the car, get all this stuff. Well, now I'm saying the stuff can be gone like that. I know from experience, I had a $20 million net worth and a 7,500 square foot estate in Beverly Hills, and it was gone like that. And so that begs the question, did I really have a $20 million net worth? No, I didn't, because the only thing that is real is that which can never be lost or taken away. And so my message now is very different. It's about what's inside here, because your true wealth is not what you have. Contrary to popular belief, your true wealth is what you're left with when all you have is gone.
Yep.
That's your true wealth. And so that old market doesn't necessarily resonate with that message.
Yep.
In saying that, I do have a question. So you had said, I just want to back up just a teeny bit. When you had said, like, you were kind of becoming something you didn't intend to become. Do you think you kind of got lost in all that, and that's kind of what spearheaded towards 2009?
I look back on who
No, I just want to remind everybody that question is because we're talking about redemption and growth, and I think that's an important question to get to where we're headed with that road. Yeah.
I alluded to this earlier when I said my wife has told me she wouldn't have married me if she'd have known me then. And yes, my heart was always good.
It was in the right place.
It was in the right place. My approach and methodology, not always so much. And, because I worked so long and so hard, 20 years before things finally took off, I got seduced. I seduced myself into the mindset that, I've worked so long and so hard, and now I've kind of arrived. And I look back now and I see the hubris in that, because I had over 1 million people from 146 countries around the world coming to my events, pouring into my events to ask me how to have a better life and a better business. Right. And so I started kind of thinking, I got to figure it out. And so then life came along and went, oh, you do? Well, now figure that one out, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I think too, you get used to doing things. This works. Everybody's it's kind of like everyone's on the same bandwagon. When The Secret came out, everyone was on that, manifest, think it, and it's going to be, so everybody was on that bandwagon. So everyone was doing the same, basically, kind of things, little variations here and there. But you get used to doing your routine,
right.
This is working. People are coming. This is working. I mean, individual, when you talk to an individual, obviously that's a little different. But when you're talking in front of a crowd, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Why change it? If it ain't broke, you don't fix it. Right. So, you get used to it, you get in your rut. However, when this thing, this tragedy does come, that is that big mental thing like, oh my God, okay, wow, now I really got to take a look at everything. And then you have that time taken away from the world to not only do that, but be forced into doing that. And then,
Yeah,
you know,
and you're so correct, Gina. I've studied many traditions, and as I said, I've been blessed to be exposed to a lot of different teachings. One of my favorite is the Toltec teaching, and if you're not familiar with the Toltec, if anyone's heard of Carlos Castaneda, then he trained with a Toltec shaman, and he was a research student at UCSD, and he was writing his thesis, and he went down to Mexico to do his final paper, and ended up getting sucked in, and the whole Carlos Castaneda series is about him working with his Toltec shaman, and I've been exposed to Toltec teachings, and in the Toltec they say that a man will not, mankind, man or woman, a man, and I'm quoting directly, will not change until he's backed into a corner with a dagger dangling over his head.
yeah, that's basically it.
And the fact is, most of us will never, ever do what it takes to change our life, to change our business, until we experience enough pain.
Hmm.
And we've got to come to the point of enough already. And and for me, life afforded me this opportunity of tremendous pain and yet tremendous learning, to step back, to regroup. There's some salvation, and this is going to sound strange to some, but there's salvation in suffering, because suffering pulls away the layers of BS and gets you to the core of what's really important in your life. And until we suffer, until we experience enough pain, we most often, if ever, will not get to that point where we'll start to pull off all the veneers. And so this is what's happening in the world right now in 2020. So many people have invested their entire life in a business, and now it's gone. I mean, Bersaba and I know restaurant owners who their business is shut down and it's not coming back. And there's so much of that going on in the world right now. And I will never minimize it. It's very hard. It's very painful. And yet what I would encourage anyone who's confronted with a job loss or a love loss or a business loss and whatever, is to find a way to certainly grieve. Yes, that's human. And to find a way to learn from that and to leverage that and to reboot and to adapt and to approach things differently in round two.
Yep. Mankind, that's it. Mankind is always out of necessity that we invent things. It's always out of necessity that we eat. It's out of necessity we love. It's out of necessity we work. We need shelter, out of all those things. I do wish, because I understand, because I have done this. I have had the best of homes and I've had homeless. I've, had my complete and utter freedom and had it taken away. All those things I understand. I know that. I lost my husband. I know that. All these things, but they build your character. They build you. It's how you handle the situations. I wish, that no one would have to go through these things. I really do. But that is life. I mean, life is not easy. There's no yin without yang. There's no good without evil. There's no happy without sad. And it's true. Because how would you know the difference? Otherwise, it would all be the same. Would be zombies walking around.
Exactly. And it's in the contrast of life that we really begin to learn what it is that's important to us. It's by experiencing the things that we don't want and that we don't like, that we get more clarification on what we do want and what really brings fulfillment to us.
Yeah.
So, talking about, what we're talking about right now, you had mentioned that there's a lot of, entrepreneurs and things like that are experiencing depression and stuff. How would you kind of explain a little bit how you think they could overcome it? What advice would you give them? How would you explain to them to actually embrace this, to overcome that, to shed this skin, to become new?
Well, I'm going to give kind of a counterintuitive answer, and I'll give you a couple of steps. And this is what I learned in solitary confinement, because I was the king of reframe. You know, well, this is really horrible. Oh yeah, well, what's good about it? You know, and there's a time and a place for reframe. And yet, unfortunately, in a lot of personal development, spiritual development, leadership, etc., it's always we're told we always have to look at the bright side. We always have to be positive, and all of those things. And I would suggest that in many cases, if not most, that creates a lot of pathology, because what happens when we don't let our emotions process and when we don't fully feel them is we suppress them. And anything that is suppressed will be expressed in later days in uglier ways. And so the first thing that you have to do is you have to allow yourself to be depressed. Now that scares people, a lot of people, because they feel like if they go into the pit of depression, that they're never going to climb out. Well,
but it makes sense.
I'm sorry?
But it makes sense.
Yeah, because you will climb out. You will climb out. Every single emotion, every single experience in the third dimensional reality is temporary. It's temporal, which translates as time bound. Everything in time is temporary. And so, and that's true of joy too. It's true of happiness. Oh, I just want to be happy all the time. Well, no one is happy all the time. You know, if someone's happy all the time, they scare the hell out of me. Because
That's what I'm gonna do.
You need to take it down a notch, Killjoy. You need to take it down a notch.
that's either someone in deep denial or someone who is just an automaton. And so the first step is you have to allow yourself to feel the feelings. You need to feel every single emotion. You don't have to act on them. That's the distinction. You feel everything. Feel your anger. All right. Feel your sadness. Feel your grief. Feel your depression. You don't have to act on it. Just feel it. Just be with it. And what I learned in solitary confinement is that when I would just allow it to be, because when you're in lockdown and you've got nothing but four walls and God, then you've got no distraction. You've got nowhere to go. You can't scroll through your feed. You can't turn on the TV. You can't read a book. You can't journal, nothing. And so I just had to be with my own pain. And what I realized is when I was with my own pain, eventually it lifted. It went by. So that's the first step. The second step is to realize why depression occurs. Depression is the result. I mean, look at the word depress. To depress or to suppress, it's the result of something wanting to be expressed that is not being expressed. So when we experience depression, we need to feel it first, and then we can start to ask ourselves, what is life wanting to express through me that is not being expressed? You know, maybe I'm holding back on my true thoughts and feelings. Maybe I'm rolling over with my husband or wife. Maybe I'm not speaking my thoughts and feelings to my boss. Whatever it is. I mean, what's wanting to be expressed that has been suppressed, and that's driving depression. And when we can find a way then to express it, then that too facilitates, it becomes a learning opportunity. And I, life is teaching me, hey, stop avoiding, stop denying, stop moving away from, and just step up and grow and be more human, more open, more expressive in whatever way that takes form.
Do you want to come to work with me a couple of times and like talk to my clients or something? They don't listen to me when I say that. Maybe if it comes from a distinguished person. Because I tell them that I'm like, it's okay not to. What's that?
When I listen to you, when you tell me some of your scenarios you have to deal with, it's wow. And I can only imagine what James deals with.
I'm sitting here listening to him. I'm like, has he taken motivational interviewing? Because if he hasn't, he could teach it. And I'm like, he says the exact same thing, much more eloquently, by the way, than I do. Like, I'm like, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be depressed. Feel that, process it. And then kind of like, but don't unpack and live there, and then grow from it. And it's going to be okay. And I get, but I'm too scared. I'm like, but that's okay. It's okay to be scared. And they're like, no, I'm pulling the blankets over my pillow. You take care of it. And I'm like, no, we're not learning. We're not learning.
Right.
So maybe if you come to my work and you visit my clients with me, they'll be like, oh, that's what you're talking about. You say it much more distinguishedly than I do.
Well, thank you. I've probably got a few more years under my belt than you do, Tiffany.
I'm a lot older than you think.
Well, yeah. Well, she's still a baby compared to what we are. You and I are, I think, 1 year apart.
We're seasoned.
Yes, we have that.
The makeup, don't let it fool you. It's a lot of product.
Yes. Smoke and mirrors, people. Smoke and mirrors. No, definitely not. Hi, Jojo. Thanks for coming in. Anybody, please, you guys who are listening and whatnot and watching, please share the video to your feeds. Can we get this information out there? Because it's really good stuff. Okay, this can help a lot of people. Really getting back into like the things that you're teaching now. So we're going to put 2009 and 2013, everything back in the past. Now, moving forward, all right, and your redemption. Now, what is it that you have that's going on that's available for people? I know you have the 13th and 14th, and I'm not sure. I'm going to put this picture up. I'm not sure if you're still doing this, the giveaway, the chance to win the actual event. Are you still doing that, or is that done?
We are. We were giving away 3 free seats to the Redemption Experience, and we just gave away the first one today.
Oh, how fun.
So
I know I signed up for it.
we got two more opportunities, and that's March 13th and 14th. It's on Zoom. So yeah, there it is. Thank you. And so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We have people from international clients who are joining us, and it's 2 full workshop days. It's not just me talking. It's roll up your sleeves, get busy, do the work. We have about a 50-page workbook that we're going to email to you. So it's not for the faint of heart. It's not motivation. It's about really finding out what the internal drivers are, and most of those are unconscious. Psychology tells us 95% of what we do every single day is driven by your unconscious mind. And the rub is, how do you deal with something that you're unconscious of? You can't. And so what we do in the Redemption Experience is we teach you how to use the mind. We have a proprietary model of the mind that we'll introduce you to, and how to make those unconscious issues conscious. And that's the work. When you can make the unconscious conscious, now you know what you need to work on. And once we bring those into conscious awareness, then we'll show you exactly and specifically how to heal those, release them, and set yourself free. And most of those, positive psychology tells us 70% of how you're programmed in your formative years is disempowering. That's a lot. And the formative years are between birth and 13 years of age. So for most of us, that was a long time ago. And yet it doesn't change without a concentrated and conscious effort to bring those things to change.
Right. Now, is it jamesarthurray.com that they can get the main site?
It's just jamesray.com. jamesray.com.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, I go by my full name, but we just on the website, because it's been around for a long, long time before I started using my full name. Yeah, there it is, jamesray.com. And so they can go to upcoming events, and it shows you everything that we have upcoming in the near future.
Right. So this
for the rest of the year, actually.
This is the closest. So this is what's
correct.
happening real soon.
Next week.
Now, yeah, next week, actually, right? 2 weeks.
Do you see the light coming down on me? It's like,
Yes.
We got sunshine.
oh, I must be saying something enlightening. I don't know.
Well, you mentioned God a couple of times, so he's like, "Yo, I'm here, man. I'm here."
He's just saying, "Yeah, I got you.
That's
Are you where it's warm?
That's it. Beersheba just stepped in front of the light. So
How do you say that? What? Beersheba.
Beersheba. Yeah, she goes by Bear because it's hard for most Americans to figure out how to say her name right. So anyway,
that is
you
funny.
could just close the blinds.
How did you meet her?
It's an interesting story because I didn't know her in 2013, and the very first speaking engagement I had after I decided that I wasn't going to quit was for a network marketing company called Organo Gold. And they had me speak at one of their meetings, and she happened to be in the audience, and she came up, and she was only there because she heard that we're going to have a special guest from The Secret. So thank God for that. And she came up to me, and we took a picture together, and then she approached me and said, "I really would like to work with you as an apprentice," she said. And I said, "Okay, well, what does that mean?" Well, she has a degree in graphic design and computer animation. And so she said, I can, your social media needs some serious help. And I can help you with that. And I said, "Okay, well, I can't pay you because, as I told you, I was 20 million in debt." And she said, "I don't care. That's okay." And so we worked together for 3 years. She worked with me in the business. She worked a full-time job all day long, and she would get up at 4 a.m. and work from 4 to 6 for me, and then go to the office and work all day long and get home and work from 6 till midnight again for me without pay for 3 years, which says a lot about who she is.
Her character is right up there.
Yeah, big time. And so we weren't partners at that time, and but we were in business together, and we worked together, and then we started to develop this incredible friendship. And then of course there was an attraction, and over time it got stronger. And so Darlene says you're a goddess with a beautiful name. Thank you, Darlene. I agree. And so then we were really struggling because with the whole concept of should we act on this, because we had such a great friendship and we had such a great business relationship that we knew if the relationship went south that we would probably lose the friendship and the business relationship. And I didn't want to risk it. And I was really skittish about it. But as it turns out, we both decided to do that. And then we became a couple, and we kept it under wraps for a long time just for business purposes. And then eventually we made it public and we got married. And so here we are.
Did you have a big wedding? I'm sorry.
No. We are kind of over big, as you know, I've lived big, and again, I'm grateful to have had that experience. And yet we just decided her beauty and brains wore you down. Darlene, you got a fan, and she hadn't even seen you. I said, she did see her.
Yeah.
But anyway, big wedding. No, we had a really small wedding. And initially we were just going to do just she and I in a small chapel in Vegas. We live in Henderson. And then of course my brother and my sister-in-law got wind of it. And I was the proverbial bachelor. I had gone on record so many times saying I'm never getting married. I'd been married once before, and I wasn't going to go there again. And I was very serious about that. And so when we told them we were engaged, my brother was like, "What?" And so we got to be there. And he goes, "I don't care if you want to." I said, "Well, we're just going to have a small just for us." No, I don't care what you say. We're coming because this is such a big event. so we did that, and then Beersheba was raised Baha'i, and so her family is into the Baha'i tradition, and they all, including Beersheba and me too, because it was important to all of them, decided to have a Baha'i ceremony, and so we did that too, and that was just in her one of her family members' homes, but both of them were very small affairs and more for us and just close relatives than anyone else.
Well, that is awesome, though. I like hearing that story because this is making you, as opposed to someone that's always up on stage and that mannequin saying the same thing all the time, a real person. You know?
Well, do you want me to make me even more real? Um, she proposed to me, and she's yeah. Um,
Let it, girl. Take those reins.
Well, see, you have to do this to men sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's a long story. I was planning on doing it, and patience is not one of her virtues. And so we were sitting at dinner one night, and she just like came out with it, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, you just ruined all my plans, because I'm a romantic. I'm a helpless romantic. And I had all these big plans. I was going to, get this suite and do this big dinner. And I already had the ring and so on and so forth. And she totally blew all my plans, because she had this woman's intuition, I guess, that it was coming, and she'd had enough waiting already. So anyway, it's a story that we will have to tell for the rest of our lives.
It's time. That's it.
That's right. That's right.
It's happening. Whether you like it or not, climb aboard.
The romantic side was taking too long. She needed reality. It's okay. It happened.
That's right.
There's the new age and there's the new world.
She figured that she liked the new you so much she didn't want to waste a moment, and I can respect that.
I feel honored if that's the case. So yeah.
Well, if you said anything else, you might be in trouble. So,
but that has got to be a good, that I just can't think of any other way to put it. A good ego boost for you.
Yeah, because for the viewers who are guys here, it's stressful. What if you think but what if they say no? What are you going to do? I mean, it'd be kind of tough to deal with. So yeah, she took all that right away.
Well, there you go. You didn't have to make a "how's them Yankees" conversation.
That's right.
That is funny. All right, that's an important question. Who's your favorite football team?
Yeah, I don't even know who throws footballs. I could care less, quite frankly.
I was kidding.
Yeah.
I was kidding. But all right, I want to get out of the romance and everything. That was a wonderful, wonderful story. Now I want to get back to the 20 million in debt. Now a lot of people would look at that and go like, "Oh my God, how do you accumulate such debt, and how does that happen?" But when you have these big major productions going on at all times, now you're paying camera crews and large, the venues themselves and lighting and everything else. So I mean, explain how that whole thing, like how that amassed, and then over the time too, right? Like,
well, yeah, I'll cut it in half right away by telling you 10 million of that was legal fees.
Okay.
So if you happen to have being indicted on your bucket list, I would highly encourage you to take it off, because it's crazy expensive. And I've been blessed in so many ways, Tiffany and Gina, because I ran out of money literally before we even went to trial. And my lawyers believed so strongly in me and in the case that they did it pro bono, and they racked up the debt, but they just continued working. Now I don't know many law firms that would do that, but Munger, Tolles, and Olson did, and they went to bat for me in a big way. Going back to the rest of it, though, yeah, I mean, some of our events back when I was at the peak, we had 2,000 people in a room, and some of our events cost $250,000 to produce. That's not salaries. That's just production costs. And so, it's really interesting because people consistently have no clue. Oh, I want to do what he does, and they look around the room, and it was a big deal because they made a big deal of it in trial that some of my events were $5,000, some of them were $10,000, and so people would come into the room and they'd go, okay. They look at all these hundreds, if not thousands of people, and they'd go 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. James Arthur Ray is making bank. Well, not necessarily, because it cost $500,000 a month to run my business. And so
it's crazy. It's crazy to think of.
It's crazy, right? Wow. So I had to make $6 million. I had to generate $6 million a year before I ever made $1. And so when you look at people who do huge events, well, no one's doing them now, but those individuals, and I'm sure you can name names who do these huge events, I know what it takes, and it's not what it appears to be, because it's highly expensive, and it's very, very difficult selling one seat at a time to get an event filled with 2,000 people, much less a stadium of multiple tens of thousands of people. And so it's very easy to get debt racked up. And when everything is on Mach 10, and then it comes to a screeching halt, the expenses are still there. And we had contracts pre-signed, and we had all these things. And so it's not that difficult to come up with 20 million really, really quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I understand too. Like it's tough to go through all the things that you've gone through, and just when you take these people to these events and you do these different things, like having them walk through fire and doing these things. Now, what is it? How do you come up with these things that these people will do? I mean, to me, I'd be like, well, wait do you see if I can get these people to do this? It's like, what if I can get them to walk on a tightrope that's on fire? I don't know what I'd do, because that little sadistic part of me would come out and go, hey, maybe I can get them to do this.
Yeah, well, I had a really good teacher. His name is Tully Burkan, and Tully certified almost anyone who does a firework, whether it was me, which I don't do anymore, Tony Robbins, name the name. He taught all of us how to do it. He's the godfather of that experiential activity. And he also taught me how to do rebar bends and aero brakes and board brakes and brick brakes and glass walking and all that stuff. So I went through a certification and a training to learn how to do those things safely. And that doesn't mean that sometimes people don't get their feet burned. Of course they do. You're working on fire, for God's sakes. Yeah. But I don't do any of those things anymore. And it's not that I can't. I have no restrictions on me whatsoever as to what I can or cannot do. But I choose now not to do those things because the risk is just too high. And I've had this horrible experience with the Sweat Lodge. And while I believe that experiential learning is profound, I really do, because when you can create a transference, when people go, okay, I did this, now I can do that at home, and you can make that connection, it's very powerful mentally and emotionally. And yet I leave that up to others now, because I've had the downside of that, and I choose not to go there again.
Well, that's
awesome. People can make their own experiences too.
Yeah. Well, and it's every bit as experiential. Like at the Redemption Experience, we have some very deep introspective exercises, and that's every bit as profound and powerful as as walking on fire or something else, but you're not putting yourself in potential physical harm. You're really diving deep into your own psyche and finding things that are causal that can really transform your life.
Right. Now, do you mind if I play just a quick little ad? And
no, go for it.
Right back. It's just like 2 minutes. Hello, everyone. I am Gina Bankston, proud host of The Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D, airing every Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm also going to be doing a few occasional special reports, interview shows with Tiffany Bell. We have some amazing guests lined up. Subscribe on YouTube and watch those ads, as you're not going to want to miss any of our shows, including our pop-up reading shows. Why am I making this video? Well, quite simply because I make all my own show ads and bio videos for my guests. And many of you have asked, can I do this for you too? Well, the answer is yes, and I'm calling this P-Fox Advertising. I can make you a banner, a picture ad, or a video ad for your products, services, events. Treat your guest special with a bio video ad if you're like me doing your own podcast, or if you're going to be a guest on a podcast and want your own special opening video. You can run your ad on the Fox Den. I can create an ad or run your pre-made ad. You can also be a sponsor of the Fox Den. Packages vary. If you choose to run your ad on the Fox Den, for the shows you book, the ads will be seen and heard live on YouTube and Facebook, as well as our many growing Anchor FM venues. Prices vary for content, duration, type, for various lengths of time. So what are you waiting for? Contact me, Gina B, at gbfoxinvestigates@gmail.com. Talk soon. Point is from Bear on that, on doing that. So like I said, I'm new at it, but I have gotten comments on a lot of my videos that I've made for people, so I decided to put it out there. So
good for you.
Yeah, I mean, what the heck? What's the worst that can happen? You either get work or you don't.
You get 0% of the things you don't ask for. So, yep. I said that you get 100% of the
100%.
things. Yeah.
You don't ask for.
So,
yeah.
Good for you.
We need to put that on a pillow. We need to put that on a pillow and just give it to people.
Bumper stickers. Bumper stickers. Do people make bumper stickers anymore? I don't know.
I certainly hope not. My child is an honor roll student. You should put that on your dash, because do you really think the people behind you care? I don't think they care. It's for you, right? Put it on your dash, and then you can look at it all the time.
That's true. That's true.
You just want to go, yay, you behind the car, like, good for you. Do you feel proud? Because
yeah,
I got an extra large coffee. Yay, me.
Mama D is now putting all your links in the chat on Facebook, and I think she'll put them on YouTube as well, too, so they can just click the links as opposed to me showing them here where they'll have to physically type it in.
Thank you so much.
And also, I would like to say, if you are listening to one of our Anchor FM venues and any one of them, please go over to the YouTube channel so you can watch the show. So you can see the pictures, you can see James, you can see Tiffany, see me, but you can see the show. And that is the Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D. This is the special reports edition, but it is a division of the Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D. So that is the YouTube channel. So go there and watch, share, subscribe, hit the notification button, because again, we do pop-up shows. This is our not a normal day for us. We are usually on Thursdays, and however, we have added this on Tuesday. So we're throwing people off tonight. So yes,
That's what we do.
But we're going to be doing this again. And next week will be live Tuesday again. So we'll have the Booth brothers with us on Tuesday, me and Mama D, and not Tiffany. Tiffany will be back with me again shortly. But okay. All that being said, we do have a wonderful man in the room who has lived an incredible life and gone through a lot to get to the place that he's at. And, kudos that you've done what you've done. And it's Really great. Let's see. And James is handsome. The ladies are beautiful, and I'm working hard on the tech. She is down below. She's doing all her things. She does so well.
You're so kind. Thank you very much.
Love you, Mama D.
Absolutely, we love you. So, can't talk. Blinded by your handsomeness. What do you when you teach now, what do you hope people get out of what you're teaching now and the crises we're facing? So, in the crisis that we're facing, what are you trying to teach people to overcome and such like that? Does that make sense?
Well, it makes total sense. And I stated earlier that Gallup tells us the vast majority of people are unhappy and disengaged in their life and their business. And so we basically work with individuals who want to find meaning and purpose in their life, and then take that meaning and purpose and build a business or run a business with that meaning and purpose involved, and to create a life that's happy and fulfilled. I mean, that's what we're doing here with the organization we're working with here in San Diego this week, is we're helping them get real clarity as an organization, what their purpose is, what their vision is, what their values are, and then be able to communicate that clearly, because unfortunately so few businesses have that kind of clarity. And
so true.
Yeah, and in lack of a common or a compelling purpose, the conversation always degrades to the lowest common denominator, which is money. And I'm not anti-money at all, but let me just say this to all the viewers, and I'd ask for your consideration here, because this is going to be shocking for some. Nobody wants money. Nobody wants money. You think you want money. What you want is what you think money will do for you. You don't. Nobody wants.
I wish the world would get rid of money. I seriously.
Well, they just may. I mean, don't get me off into the economy right now, but or the declining dollar. But the fact is that none of us want pieces of paper with pictures of dead presidents. We just don't. We want what we think those papers will give us. And so
comfort and stability.
Yeah, comfort, security, stability, fulfillment, vacations, family time, whatever. And so I'm not anti-money at all. I'm pro going after and being clear on what's purposeful and meaningful for you. Because when I had a $20 million net worth, I wasn't any happier than when I had a couple $100,000 or even $100,000, because money doesn't bring you happiness. It doesn't. In fact, research proves, and it was written up in Time magazine years ago, that in most cases, after you reach a certain level, money does not increase happiness at all. In fact, it decreases, because
more stress to keep it. And the taxes and
because the more you have, Gina, you're right, the more you have, the more you have to lose. And so the only people who are more worried about money than the poor are the rich. And I deal with a lot of people who are worth multiple millions, and they're worried all the time about money. And so money's not going to solve that. And you've got to solve that inside. And when you solve it inside, then you realize money comes, money goes. But that's not what it's all about. It's about meaning and fulfillment and happiness and contribution. And those are the ways that we're hardwired, whether we're consciously aware of it or not.
Exactly. Oh, and again, you don't learn the value of that until you lose it. I mean, because after I got out of jail, I got into a relationship, went into a house with a current boyfriend. That boyfriend at that time, what did he do? After I put all my money, effort, I was a designer, so I did I imported Italian tiles in the house. I built literally, because I'm a builder. I built all the cabinets in there, all the vanities, all the tables. I mean, I did so much work in this house, right? So it was like 70 grand easy that I put in just on the first floor. And then the woods, we wiped out the woods. We put in a big hot tub. What does he do? Goes in the hot tub with the neighbor, because the neighbor sees him doing all this work, decides she's going to go after him to fix her house. That doesn't work out because I was the one doing all the work. So it's like, well,
I've heard it said that karma is a bitch.
Right? So there
yeah.
you go. Now you've got him, but I left. And at the time I was stupid enough, the house was actually in his name, but I left again. Here we go. I'm down. I'm out again, and there goes all my money, because all my money was in the house. But what did I do? I pulled myself back up. I still had my businesses. So I worked my butt off. I bought myself another little house, that little house to a bigger house to, another bigger house. And now I'm in this house, and this house is paid. Done. And no one did that but me. And it's a great feeling. However, I know that it's still fickle and it could go, but I know that if it does, it's not the end of the world.
True.
And that's what people think. It's like you lose everything and they think it's the end of the world. No, because, even when you're down here, you may think that because you can't see over that curb, but there is a light up there and there is something better. And yes, cliche or not, this too shall pass does really come into play here, and you're proof, I'm proof, and millions of people are proof that can happen. But it's like, you got to make sure you don't wallow in the depression when you're down there. So, what do you suggest to people that are at that point? Because now we are in that global pandemic where everyone's losing their businesses and their houses, and and everyone's stuck in their homes together, and they want to, kill their families. So what is the words of wisdom that you might give that's better than this too shall pass?
Well, I'll go back to what I said earlier. The first thing you have to do is be really kind to yourself and allow yourself to be human and feel your feelings. If you attempt to shift it too quickly, that creates problems down the road. So just be with that. And then also recognize that the only thing let's face it, there's not one power in this universe that will guarantee that any of us are going to wake up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We hope that we will. We think that we will. I hope that you will. And yet there's not one power in this universe, even God, who will guarantee you're going to wake up tomorrow. And so when you keep that, I'll go back to the Toltec. They call that the awareness of impending death. In Western culture, we don't like that because we want to deny and avoid the concept of death at all costs. And they say, oh, that's a real morbid philosophy. But it's not really. When it's properly understood, it's not a celebration of death, it's a celebration of life. Because when you recognize that you could be gone tomorrow, people all of our ages and way younger leave this planet all the time. And so when you recognize that and you keep that in mind, then you tell yourself, hey, I've got to live. I've got to really live today. And yeah, things come and things go, but that has no impact on me to the degree that I won't let it have an impact on me, and I won't let it keep me down. Because what the modern research tells us is that emotional intelligence and adaptability intelligence, also known as EQ and AQ, are so far and away most predictive of both life and business success than IQ ever has been or will be. And so emotional intelligence is a lot of what I've shared with you here. Know what I'm feeling and be with that, and know why I'm feeling that, and make the unconscious conscious, and then adapt. Research also tells us that the vast majority of us will have to adapt and change our career and our approach at least 5 times over the remainder of our lifetime.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you have to like it. I don't like it either. It doesn't mean it'll be comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable. But what are you going to do? Are you going to whine and complain about it, or are you going to adapt and utilize it? And it's easier said than done. I'm a big advocate of coaching. I really am, and it sounds self-serving, but coaches have been very instrumental for me because they can take an objective view.
Exactly.
And they can see, when you're so immersed in something, it's very hard for you to take an objective view. It's almost impossible. And so that might be another suggestion too, is to find a good coach, someone who has been there, been through what you've been through, done what you're wanting to do, and someone who cares enough to shoot you straight. I tell all of our clients, I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to make you be better, because when you become better, you're automatically going to feel better. So I'm going to shoot you really straight, and sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, and I'm going to come from love. And yet, if you don't deal with the issues as they truly are, see things clearly, then you're just setting yourself up for future problems.
Right. Now, people can work with you one-on-one, correct? And they can go to
Space available. My calendar is booked right now, but we take a waiting list and we do one-on-one. I do a few every year. I don't take more than 5 people at a time because I really dive deep, and I'm not an accountability partner. I mean, I really.
Those are great. Those are great. We actually, Tiffany and I said we were going to be each other's accountability partners on losing weight. It's not really working too well. We probably should have had an outside accounting, person.
Right.
That person does. Mama D's down there pointing. It is a really great tool to have on the belt. And explain what that is to people that don't know what that is.
What explain?
An accountability partner.
Well, an accountability partner, I'm not that. It's just somebody who you make a commitment to, and then they help hold you accountable to that commitment. That's not what I am. I really do the deep work with my clients of getting into those unresolved emotional issues, and
Right.
it's very extensive. And so I can't deal and do justice with a whole lot of people at the same time. But we do offer online coaching. We offer group coaching. We have obviously live events where you get coaching in that venue as well. So we have a lot of different methodologies where you can work with me, work with Bersabo, work with the two of us together. And so I'd highly encourage and invite, it'd be an honor and a privilege to help anyone who is really looking for that support and that guidance, and to get through some tough times, because we all need that, particularly in turbulent times. And I forgive me, ladies, but I have a dinner engagement, and I'm going to have to jump out of here real quick, even though because it's gone a little longer than we expected.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here. I know you've come a long way. You're going to go a long way, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, you guys keep doing great work. The world needs it, and I appreciate you as well. God bless you, and thanks for the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you so much. You have a great night and enjoy your dinner.
Okay.
And thanks for sharing your wisdom. It means a lot.
Yeah. And
My
everybody
pleasure.
share the video, get this out, look him up. All his links are in throughout this video, in the chats and everything, and we'll post them again. So good night, everybody, and we'll see you all next week.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us, Gina B. and Tiffany Beth, tonight in the Fox 10 Special Reports interviews. We are excited to be bringing you more Tuesday shows with intriguing guests in the near future. Watch for those shows and all my other Thursday shows with Mama D, including our pop-up reading shows. Better still, subscribe and hit the notification button on our YouTube channel, The Fox 10 with Gina B and Mama D, and that way you will never miss a show. We'll see you soon. in the Foxton.